Welcome back to the Bishop Street stand for our latest update on the renovation of this new part of the ground. Sid Pepper is with me, the director who's been overseeing this project for about a year now.
Yes, it is a year.
And as we can see, significant progress since our last update, what, a couple of months ago?
Yes, we've now got the final touches in place, so that's the need for this, what I would say would be the final video, in all honesty. And what we'll do, we'll touch on what's gone behind and what's now left. And you can see as you pan through now how much nicer it looks. Obviously, the seats have still got to go in, and that's not an easy task, but that's for somebody else. So effectively, I've finished, except for some hand railing. So we've got barriers at either end, and you can't see them at the moment, but where we break through to the toilets, they've got nice blue painted handrails. So this will look nice. It'll look really nice. Look nicer than what I thought it was going to do. Because that was my one fear, that we were spending all this money and it wasn't going to look as the money had been spent, if you understand what I mean, because the money's been spent below us. But yeah, I think it looks nice. And it's already worked with the new people, the signings, because any potential player coming here can see the investment that the club has made. You know, you're not sitting opposite now a redundant, really eyesore, which it was, and a dangerous eyesore. That's all solved now. And we'll see some footage in a bit, but Andy Sutton, another friend of the club, is going to finish it off for the fan zone. And then it's going to look really nice. Yeah.
Bring us right up to speed then. What's been taking place exactly within the last 2 months?
The final capping of this, as you can see, this is all new concrete on top of the original horrible concrete that was there, but it wasn't the correct setting. So we had to overcoat everything. And here's a good example. If we get a pan of this, I mean, this is a huge area, which is not going to be of any use. We're not going to use it. So I'm having to put handrail in here to keep this zone free. And the only reason for that is if we'd have come up again, you'd have banged your head on the seal. So we're back to this thing again all the time, is the width of the site dictates the height that you can come. And that's the height we could come, no higher. But we've got to finish it off, hence what's going to look like a redundant area.
So what will be here?
Nothing.
Nothing at all?
No. Completely wasteful, but nothing else you could do with it. Simple as that. But people will ask that question, which is why I'm highlighting. I like to act for people and think, well, why have we got that? We see it, we'll answer it. And it may be that if we do end up putting a camera pod back up here, that this would be a way in for them. But that's not what this has been left for. I've tried to explain. This is left because it is. We've come for as far as we can with seating. This is redundant.
When we spoke last, or in one of our previous updates, you mentioned about adjusting the roof. What's been taking place on the top?
I never said anything at all about adjusting the roof.
You did. You said you were going to take it up.
When?
In one of the updates. I'm not making it up.
No. I don't know what you mean. we can't do anything with the roof. The roof is the roof.
Well, I thought there was a line of sight issue. What SAG advised, and then you were going to take the roof up.
No, you're wrong. Very early on, I offered to tilt the front of the roof.
That's what I mean by an adjustment.
Yeah, but that would have been done right at the beginning.
Okay.
Because I can't, if this has all been re-roofed, right? So we haven't gone up because it made no difference, because the line of sight is affected with this lattice girder.
Yeah.
Okay. And another thing, you know, as you go back here, you're seeing less and less. So this is why this becomes redundant. It can't be used because you can't offer the line of sight that SAG insist upon. So we're going to have this huge area redundant. But that's the cost. That's the price you pay.
I think it was in our previous conversation, you said around about 760 seats are going to be put in here.
That's
Is
correct.
that still the case?
That's correct. Yeah.
And when are they going in?
Fortunately, my responsibilities have stopped now. They are ordered, and they do any time, apparently. But to my mind, they're going to take at least 3 weeks to go in. So this is why absolutely they were right to tell me off for talking about me being finished by what should have been the end of May, became the end of June. No, stop saying that, because, you know, it's not. And they're correct, because other people now have had to hand over to Andy Sutton to do that work there. I had to hand over to one call to do the toilets. They're finished, by the way, so the last job will be beyond this wall.
So with regards to the seating area, from
Yes.
from a layman's perspective,
Yes.
if we're waiting on the seats now, you
Yes.
might say, well, why weren't they ordered earlier? But am I right in saying that SAG advised that they be a different type of seat to the one originally intended? Is it as simple as that?
Well, yes and no, but the thing was, until we'd finished casting these risers and goes, you wouldn't know which seat to buy. There's several types of seats for stadium, and I didn't want them to buy seats per se and then find they were the wrong ones. That wouldn't suit anybody. So we had to wait until we'd got the full and final information here to give to the manufacturer. And in fairness, they're going to come in time. That if they'd have been here a month ago, they wouldn't have been fitted. So it's only just now ready for fitting. I do believe they're going to start next week.
And when they do come, you think they'll take about 3 weeks?
Yes, they will.
go in?
But while that's happening, don't forget we've still got to finish the fan zone. So it's not a case of, we finished. We won't finish until it's all done. So no tickets are being sold, and we're not putting a date on it. We know what we'd like, but we're not talking about that. 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks maximum.
We'll come on to the fan zone and the entrance to the Bishop Street stand in a short moment's time. But before that, let's just speak about this structure, Sid, the actual stand itself.
Yeah.
So is that all you've got to do then? Put the seats in pretty much here?
No, I've got to put handrails at either end, and I've got to put handrailing around these drops here that lead down to the toilets. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because obviously you can't have people falling off through there. So, and that'll look nice because I'm going to do them in blue. We're not doing them in galvanised. This one's galvanised, but those are going to be in blue. So they'll be picked out from a distance. I think that'll look quite nice. That's my artistic side coming out.
Okay. Shall we look at the toilets?
If you like. That's your drainage, that's your down part. We've now got a gutter, guys. Yes? You can pick up on these things.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see it. Very good. Right, after you.
Right. So what a marvellous space this has made. I always felt this was going to be a nice space. And there we have it. It's close to being finished now, but as you can see, it's been fitted out now professionally and properly and to a high standard. So that's one bay. Through into here.
What will be here?
Just walkway.
Just a walkway.
Just milling. Just milling. And there's going to be WCs here.
Yeah.
Again, this might seem a waste of space. Yeah, what can we do with it? Nothing. Let's make people feel that it's open, that they're not enclosed. I think that's marvellous.
And this down here is just for the gentlemen?
Yes. Because we're going to put ladies and the less able into the fan zone area for obvious reasons. Less able couldn't get down the steps anyway. And ladies, it wasn't possible to give them what they need within this space. This is this concrete wall that cost a fortune to cut down,
Yeah.
just to give us that width.
Yeah.
But on the side of this will be fastened the barrier to put the LED, because that's quite exciting. We will have LED on all four sides.
Yeah.
So we've got fans on four sides, LED on four sides. Fabulous. Okay?
Excellent. So, no retaining wall here?
No. The retaining wall is only because we'd lost the concrete.
Yeah.
It is cracked, if you remember from my earlier video. So that's a huge wall to hold the stand together. This hadn't cracked to this end. This has got obviously a handrail stop people falling off, right? So that's got to be done. That's the old handrail. You'll see a much better handrail, SAG approved at this end and at that end.
So work's taking place here, and this is where the new fan zone will go?
Yes, Andy Sutton's doing this at the moment, another friend of the club. And basically this is all going to be tarmacked. Against this wall will be the toilets that we talked about. And then this will just be an area for various burger vans and whatever. So it's going to be a replica of that. So you're not having to buy your burger there and come here.
Yeah.
Right? And as we pan round, this looks a mess, but it still looks nicer than it used to do. I mean, this whole area was so untidy. And of course, when the camera moved to that point, that was always on view. I mean, it must have hurt John. So this begats a whole new look to this end.
Originally, when we spoke, I think our first update was about 9 months ago.
Yes.
We spoke about 3 phases. Well, you
Yes.
spoke about 3 phases.
Yes.
Phase 1, as we can see now, is edging towards its completion.
To all intents and purposes, yes.
What about phase 2? Because the nuts and bolts for that, Sid, were that in phase 2, the stand was going to be extended towards in line pretty much with the 18-yard box.
Yes.
Is that still going to take place?
That's the assumption, yes, because phase 3 was going to be the new camera pod and the boxes. But John's asked me to look at, can we get the camera pod done as a separate entity, and I'm just doing some design work and costings on that now. It's possible, made possible, because of that walkway we've now got, because that's how they can get up. So that'll be up to John to decide that, and also whether he wants to proceed. Also, I'll rephrase that, when he wants to proceed, because of course this costs money again.
Yeah.
I mean, this has been an awful lot of money, more than really I'd liked it to have been, but I can assure you I've made nothing out of it, in fact, quite the reverse. But the point is, it's cost what it's cost, because we came across this problem, that problem, all had to be resolved. How do you cost for something you don't know? If I can draw people's attention to this retaining wall, huge amount of concrete, put in solely to hold back this end which had cracked and broken away because it was poorly founded. So you'll all remember this. I mean, this in itself, this took 7 weeks to do at some considerable cost, but it needed to be done as a result of what we found. But the thing that I find interesting, I still get people in my ear saying, should have knocked it down, should have knocked it down. Well, I don't believe we'd have got permission, planning permission, but even if we'd have had, this wall, this thickness, would have had to have gone the entire length of the stand at probably a cost somewhere approaching $250,000.
Really?
Yes. Imagine this has been knocked down. We've cleared the site, which is going to be very expensive and difficult to do. Then, and bearing in mind the proximity of the housing, that would have had to have been put between us and the housing. And that's why I wanted to save the stand, because so much of what was the stand could have been built better, could have been better in a number of ways, but we've got the basics to work with, yes?
So just for clarity, back to phase 2, or proposed phase 2, has that been put on hold then?
You're right to refer to phase 2, and that is in this area, which is why we're not going to do a really first-class effort of tarmacking. It will be tarmac, but it won't be top draw, because this is going to be ripped up for the next extension. And you're right, phase 2 is extending this. But I think we all just need a breather. I think John's bank balance needs a breather. Okay, although this will be much cheaper to do because you can construct properly. You can have your crane here, you can have what you need here. Whereas if I again remind everybody, like a drift mine, everything's had to be handballed from there. I can't tell you what a nightmare it's been. Give us this, with standard crane here, this can be built properly. So the cost of this will be nowhere near what that's cost, nowhere near, quarter of it. So that is phase 2. Phase 3, he's asking me to price for putting a camera pod up there, which I'll do. Then it's his call. If he wanted to do that, we can achieve that.
As part of phase 3 as well, you were going to put executive boxes on the top, weren't you?
There's a big demand for it. I mean, a lot of people keep asking me, can we get on with the boxes? And to my mind, if we're going to put a camera pod up there, we might as well do the boxes, because the same structure to support it would support these boxes. So I think we'll end up doing 3 before 2 is my personal opinion.
So we've come to the point which is at the corner of the Quarry Lane stand and the Bishop Street stand.
Yes.
And the entrance is just behind us, isn't it? At the turnstiles.
Yeah.
But this is all part of it, you were saying, isn't it? This is all being redone as well.
Absolutely, it had to be. Otherwise, you'd have had a relatively new-looking stand, and there's still the eyesores that have been there for donkey's years. So we've got shots earlier on of those 2 cabins being taken away. Well, they must have been there 20 years, and you can already see an improvement. So the stand leads into the new van zone, leads into the new entrance. It all makes sense, and that's how it'll be handed to the people. So when you were saying, give me a date, will we open for Doncaster, whatever, we won't be far off. I'm just trying to let the viewers know that this is all part of the fact it's nothing to do with me, is irrelevant. I was about a month handing over to Andy for reasons we couldn't have avoided, but he's a month behind where he would be. So I can't now join the chorus of putting him under pressure. Come on, let's be done. It'll take as long as it takes. But I'm just saying to people, they can hopefully, yeah, we've got 1 or 2 vans about, but this can look marvellous. It really is. Even now, I can see this just as an open space, really attractive, and equal to any clubs, any ground in the league, in my opinion.
So just in a bit more detail, what exactly is taking place here?
Well, this is going to be the entrance, and it's going to be a damn fine entrance. And I'm quite excited about it, really. And I think hopefully the club will be, and certainly the supporters will be. As we've talked about, as we've come down, they're creating a space which will have the burger van and everything else, a fence to protect mezzers, groundsmen, because you can't have general public going by an open door. So we're having the fence put in to control that. That's looked quite nice. No, all just going to be quite exciting. I can see the vision now, but with difficulty with the camera shots at the moment, seeing it. You know, as you look down there, it's all been painted. And you can see the stand there. It looks lovely, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I promise. And from a distance, that looks like a new stand, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that has come out nicer looking than I thought it would do. So, if you like, that's a bit of added value.
The big question, and I don't want to put you under any undue pressure, will the stand be open for supporters when Mansfield Town play their first home game against Doncaster Rovers on the 9th of August?
No, you're going to try and get me in trouble with the board. They've told me not to give any dates. But to be honest, if we see it as it is now, it's all very encouraging. I think we're just making an artificial, too tight a deadline. I can't see it myself personally, just a little bit too much for Andy to do in the limited time that he's had. And I come back to that point. If he's late starting, he'll be late finishing.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, for all the costs, and it's been nearly a year, you're quite right, we started probably a year ago, and the cost and the time and the effort, you know, why rush it to try and be open for a particular date when another week would make all the difference to it being properly finished? And I think the club should be allowed to do that, and only then, when they're 100% certain, should they be allowed then to put tickets on sale, which again is entirely responsible.
It's been another good update, Sid. Any other news of note for our supporters and viewers?
Well, other than don't forget, we've also now got the club shop, which I think is, I mean, these are all things that are adding up. And that's going to be what the club's needed for a while. So that's been done. This has been done. Spectators on 4 sides. You know, the difference it's going to feel, because how long is it since it's only been on 3 sides? 30 years? Whatever. We've now got noise on all 4 sides. Can't wait.